Hey everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of the AI Radio Show. And this is season 4, episode 6. Today is Monday. I hope you all had a very great, amazing weekend. Yeah, there's been a lot of things that's happening in AI. I did a couple of cool things. I went live with the first episode of the AI Sisterhood podcast on Saturday, and it was fun. The guest, Deb Haas, was super cool, and it was such a vibe. If you've missed that episode live, it's currently available on my YouTube. You can tune in and watch that conversation and get inspired. All right. So, I mean, somebody who has been in the in this whole workspace. I mean, she's been in HR for like almost 25 plus years in a single company, and then she got laid off. But then she turned her whole life around with AI, and now she's teaching a whole group of women who are 40 plus with AI, and shaping their lives. So it's a must watch. If you've missed it on Saturday, check it out. Now, um before we get into this today's episode, again, a couple of announcements. Basically, I am running a free workshop. It's called the I always pronounce it as irresponsible, but then it's Irreplaceable OS, where I teach you to become irreplaceable in your current role. We know AI is overwhelming, and get to you get so many hype information from across the internet. Whenever you open anything, any app on your phone, could be LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, whatever application that you open, it's all AI this, AI that, agentic AI, this AI, that AI, right? It could be overwhelming, but so for someone who is um basically a non-tech person who doesn't know how to code or who doesn't even understand how to integrate AI in your existing role, because I know that a lot of leadership, a lot of push should come from the leadership team for you to integrate AI, otherwise get replaced. um, and there are a lot of layoffs that's happening across the world in different companies. So I understand the fear if you think that you might be laid off someday. So this workshop helps you in killing that fear. And at the end of this workshop you will identify one task that will kind of help you to understand where you can implement AI, the workflow that you can automate. Okay, I promise you, no matter whichever role you are in, you can automate at least a single task that you do using AI. And you could become this unfireable, irreplaceable person at your current organization. So yeah, in order to register that, check out the pinned comments, and or if not, like scan the QR code that it's like over there. So with that being said, let's jump right in. Since Friday, there's been like a lot happening in the AI space, and I've got it covered. Okay, you need not worry about it. I'll keep you posted on everything that has happened in the AI space, or like over the weekend. And today's Monday, and today also like a couple of news has come up. So I'll definitely keep you posted on all of those things. Shall we get right into it? All right. So if you're a regular here who's been here for all the three seasons and this fourth season, drop a hi in the chat. I'd love to know that you support this whole journey. And if you've watched the AI Sisterhood podcast, do let me know in the comments as well. I'd love to know that your feedback, like how did you like it? So yep. With that being said, let me quickly bring in the news for today. All right. Okay. So here there are like five major storylines which kind of converged to make this one of the most historically significant weeks in AI development. Okay, what we're covering today is basically, we know about this. Pentagon, it formally designated Anthropic, which is an American company, as a supply chain risk to national security. And OpenAI's GPT 5.4 was launched, and it has crossed the human baseline on computer use for the first time ever. Frontier models demonstrating autonomous security exploits and sandbox escapes. Block, a company that lays off 4,000 employees, with CEO Jack Dorsey explicitly citing AI as the reason for laying off people. And hyperscalers collectively committing $700 billion in infrastructure capex for 2026 alone. This is the highest in history. And so this briefing will cover every major AI news item that has happened in the past 2 days, organized by category so that you don't get confused, from billion-dollar deals to the smallest, even the tiniest feature drops that was kind of done. But before we move to the actual segment of the evening, I just wanted to mention one thing quickly. So oh, I guess somebody is listening to me for the first time. Hey, thanks for joining. So what I was about to mention was NASA, as you know, is like planning a mission to the moon. Like, it was planned in early March, but due to certain technical difficulties, it was pushed to later March. And then again, there is this hydrogen leak or something that's going on. So that's even it is even gonna get pushed further. Now, so historically, on the NASA mission, no iPhones or no personal phones would be allowed. All right, but they're changing the rules. So this specific mission to the moon, astronauts get to carry their own personal iPhones, which means we could get 4K resolution videos I mean, like literally on the spot, like as soon as astronauts kind of see something while they are in space, we get to go see it live. So that's exciting, right? Provided their mission doesn't get further delayed, we could get to see what space looks like and what moon looks like as soon as they get there. So, with that being said, let me bring back the news briefings of AI that's happened over the weekend. So, as I was mentioning, I've categorized every news into the proper category so that you do not get confused. Okay, so on we all know this news. On March 5th, the Pentagon officially designated Anthropic as a supply chain risk for national security. This is the first time that this label, typically reserved for many of these Chinese firms, was publicly applied to an American born company. And the designation requires all defense contractors to certify that they don't use Claude in Pentagon work, with a 6 month grace period for the whole transition to take place. Now, Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei confirmed receipt of the designation, apologized for the tone of a leaked internal memo that had called OpenAI's Pentagon deal safety theater, and vowed to challenge the designation in court, arguing the statute requires least restrictive means necessary. Okay. Now, the market reaction was dramatic and kind of quite immediate. You could have seen the quit GPT movement that's going on LinkedIn. So, because of all of those things, Claude surged to number one on the App Store in 20 plus countries with over like 1 million new signups per day. And ChatGPT uninstalls spiked by 295%. And that's not just the only bad news for ChatGPT. It also started receiving a lot of one-star reviews, and that jumped by around 775%. This was a public vote of confidence for Anthropic's refusal to comply. How many of you switched from ChatGPT to Claude? Let me know in the chat. I would love to know if you made the switch. All right. And additionally, from the geopolitics context, OpenAI revised its defense contract on March 3rd to add stronger surveillance projections, explicitly stating that the AI system shall not be intentionally used for domestic surveillance of US persons. Meanwhile, xAI, Elon Musk's xAI, they struck a separate deal to deploy Grok models in classified settings. And 875 plus employees across Google and OpenAI signed an open letter backing Anthropic's stance against the Pentagon demands. I mean, these are employees from OpenAI who are signing against OpenAI's deal with the Pentagon. So, what does that say about it? Now, OpenAI launched GPT 5.4, 5.4 Thinking, and 5.4 Pro on March 5th. These are its new flagship model family. The number on this slide that that you're seeing right now, that is the headline story. 75% on Oswald verified, which surpasses the 72.4% human baseline. Okay, this means ChatGPT has like outperformed what humans could do, right? Which is mind blowing if you think about it. This makes GPT 5.4 the first general purpose model with native computer use capabilities. It scored 89.3% on BrowseCom, which is the state of the art, and on OpenAI's internal investment banking benchmark, it jumped from 43.7% with GPT-5 to get this 87.3% with GPT 5.4 Thinking. This is like more than a double jump if you think about it. The model features 1 million token context window, 47% fewer tokens needed on agentic tasks, 128K max output tokens, and 33% fewer false claims than GPT 5.2. And GPT 5.4 Pro scored 92.8% on GPQA Diamond, which is another evaluation metric. And now the price of GPT 5.4 is around $2.50 per million input tokens, and it's currently available to Plus, Team, and Pro, and even enterprise subscribers, and via API. OpenAI engineer Hansen Wang demoed GPT 5.4, writing a working GPT-2 interface engine in the language C, and it was under 5,000 bytes. In just 15 minutes, no previous model could do this. Also shipping this week, GPT 5.3 Instant, which cuts hallucinations by 26.8% compared to its predecessor and represents OpenAI's most used model from performance to accuracy. OpenAI's Skills beta launched for ChatGPT business and enterprise users, turning proven workflows into reusable instructions. This is kind of like the Claude skills that we all know. And a new internal Slack data tool lets finance analysts query 70,000 datasets in plain English to get finished charts in minutes. This is a game changer, and this could wildly impact companies like McKinsey, other analyst organizations which kind of do the same thing and charge a couple of $1 billion to do that. So where does it leave those companies? Now, there are this model wars that's happening. We touched a little bit in our Friday show with a lot of different new models being launched from in the US, in the China, and China taking over the US market and so on. Now, again, the model wars continue. Now, while GPT 5.4 dominated the headlines in the past couple of days, the challenger model field was equally significant this week as well. So, Microsoft released 5.4 Reasoning Vision 15 billion parameter on March 4th, a compact 15 billion parameter open weight multimodal model that beats GPT 5, not 5.4, GPT 4.0, the model that was retired, on 7 vision reasoning benchmarks while using 40 times fewer parameters. It uses a hybrid chain of thought approach that can kind of switch between think and no think modes. It was trained on only 200 billion tokens on 240 B200 GPUs in just 4 days. And this was released under MIT license on Hugging Face, GitHub, and Microsoft Foundry. You can find it anywhere over here. So this is the latest model from Microsoft, which is 5.4 Reasoning Vision model with 15 billion parameters. And Alibaba, a Chinese company, released Qwen 3.5. And these are small model series. Okay, this can run on your laptop. And this is like with Apache license, which means you can use it for commercial purposes and nobody can ask you anything. So it has variance between zero 0.8 billion to 9 billion parameters, which is again crazy because this 9 billion parameter model, which can run on your laptop, slightly high-powered laptop, it outperforms OpenAI's GPT open source models, which is like with 120 billion parameter. And also, it supports 201 languages, and this was previously 82 languages. And this new version of Qwen supports 201 languages. Think about it. And again, it's available on Hugging Face and Model Scope and OLMo, wherever you get your large language models. Now, Al2's OLMo hybrid, maybe pronounced as OLMo hybrid, it is a 7 billion parameter model. This was released on March 5 as a fully open model combining transformer attention with gated delta net recurrent layers. This achieves 2x data efficiency, matching almost 3 accuracy using 49% fewer tokens, with a 75% reduction in inference memory for long contexts. Okay, that's about Al2's new model. And what we have on the radar is Alibaba's Qwen project. It hit a leadership crisis because CEO Eddie Wu, he approved the resignation of technical lead. Let me get this name right. Junyang, also he goes by the name Justin, and multiple researchers kind of departed. Fears grew that Qwen could restart from kind of like retreat from the open source world. And Google Gemini 3.1 Pro Preview replaced the deprecated 3 Pro Preview, and Gemini 3.1 Flash Lite kind of launched at like only 25 cents per million input tokens. Grok 4.20 beta tool continued rolling out with improved instruction following, latex rendering, and better image search. Mistral OCR3 launched, claiming a 74% win rate on complex documents, and Flash Attention 4 hit 1605 TFLOPS per second on Blackwell GPU, 2.7 times faster than previous methods. I know a lot of different models, a lot of different technical details. Don't worry about it. A quick summary: basically, you've got a bunch of open source models which you can use from anywhere. Hugging Face, OLMo, wherever you've already used. If not, I have detailed tutorials on my YouTube channel. You can go check it out. And I've done a couple of um, you know tutorials on this AI radio show as well, as to how you can get your OLMo models and so on. So you can get it from my YouTube or anywhere on the internet. So yeah, Quen 3.5, I did try it. So the one of the things that I want to do is basically use OLMo, Quen 3.5, and the newest model, newest AI agent, OpenClaw, and build a fully autonomous agent for myself. So that's something that I'm working on. I'll share more updates on it, even kind of build it live, if you will. Let me know in the comments if you would like for me to build that model live here. I would love to demonstrate that for you. And in the other news, what do we have? Yep, this is the capital story this week was staggering in its scale. Okay, hyperscalers planned approximately $700 billion in total data center for. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. That was a very weird sneeze. But anyways, hyperscalers, they kind of planned approximately $700 billion in total data center capex for 2026 alone. Amazon was at $200 billion, Google and Alphabet at 175 to 185 billion dollars, Meta was at 115 to 135 billion dollars. Microsoft was around 120 billion plus, and Oracle at around 50 billion dollars. So Amazon invested up to $50 billion in OpenAI, and $50 billion initial plus $35 billion conditional. Okay, this was the deal between Amazon and OpenAI, with AWS becoming the exclusive third party cloud distributor for OpenAI. And OpenAI also committed approximately 2 gigawatts of Trainium capacity. OpenAI closed a $110 billion mega round with investors including Amazon, Nvidia, and SoftBank. Now, why do companies like Amazon, Nvidia, and so on invest in OpenAI, and why do OpenAI even have this partnership with all of these different companies? Basically, to run a large language model, we would need a lot of GPUs. Okay, all the compute power that we need are being supplied by these players. Okay, so that's the main reason. All of these different companies and OpenAI are having the deal, and the future is going to be that anybody who's like having their own proprietary large language model should eventually have their own data center without relying on a third party. Okay, otherwise this is going to kind of uh, sound critical, because if you want to run your LLM, you're eventually dependent on somebody who owns these data centers. So what if at some point in time they raise their prices, or put a ban on certain large language models because of their internal policies? What would these company do? So OpenAI's kind of like secret plan is to build their own data centers in the future, or dependent on Microsoft and Amazon, as they've always been. Now, OpenAI's annual recurring revenue now tops at $25 billion with 900 million plus weekly active users. And Anthropic's crossed around $19 billion. Cursor's revenue is around $2 billion, and it has doubled in 3 months, with enterprise customers at around 60% of revenue. Cohere, we've not heard about Cohere in a very long time. So, Cohere CEOs signaled a potential IPO at Bloomberg Tech London, revealing around 150 million annual recurring revenue plans for profitable before 2029. Now, VC funding highlights of this week: Nscale at $2 billion, 11 Labs at 500 million Series D at $11 billion valuation, Science Core at 230 million Series C, Growth Therapy at 150 million Series D, Oxa Autonomous Vehicles at $103 million Series D. And Broadcom's Q1 financial year 2026 AI semiconductor revenue hit $8.4 billion. This is up by 106% year over year. So all of these stats that I've just thrown in your face, if you're an avid investor and you want to invest in any of these companies, go for it. I am betting on 11 Labs because that's one of the frontier voice models out there, and they keep launching cool new features each and every day. So, yep. Now, hardware and silicon. So, typical chip race kind of exists everywhere, every time, all the time. Now, this week it was defined by consolidation, record results, and new alliances that were formed. Broadcom's Q1 blew out expectations, as we just saw, and AI semiconductor revenue, we just saw it hit $8.4 billion, which was up by 106% year over year. Total revenue made by Broadcom was $19.31 billion. The CEO forecast more than $100 billion in AI chip revenue by 2027. Broadcom confirmed OpenAI as its sixth custom silicon customer with a $10 billion custom chip order, co-delivering a custom AI inference engine expected in mass production in late 2026. AMD and Meta formalized a $60 billion plus AI chip partnership for custom MI 450 architecture in AMD Helios rack style servers with a 6 gigawatt GPU rollout. Meta also announced plans to develop custom silicon for training future models beyond recommendation workloads and broke ground at $10 billion, 1 gigawatt data center in Lebanon, Indiana. And with a lot of data center bans happening across US, I guess around 6 to 7 states have signed a petition, and the deal has gone out that no new data centers will be established in those specific US states. Now, with that being said, Ayar Labs closed 500 million CDC at around 3.8 billion valuation. This was led by Neuberger Berman with Nvidia and AMD as co-strategic investors for optical interconnects, delivering 4 to 20 times throughput per watt versus copper, expanding to Taiwan for high volume production targeting 2028 AI systems. Now, Nvidia GTC 2026, which is going to happen between March 16 and 19, with CEO Jensen Huang promising several new chips the world has never seen. Expected reveals include the Vera Rubin platform, Blackwell Ultra, a potential Feynman architecture inference chip. This is kind of like very interesting for me. I'm kind of looking forward to the Feynman architecture, the chip, and the N1X CPU. Nvidia formalized a multi-year, multi-generational partnership with Meta covering millions of Blackwell and Rubin GPUs. The US Commerce Department drafted rules requiring approval for all global AI chip shipments, and Nvidia halted H200 chip production for China, redirecting TSMC capacity to Vera Rubin hardware. Samanova unveiled the SN50 chip claiming 1.6 flops, Ep.6, and Cerebras targeted a Q2 2026 IPO around $22 billion with a $10 billion OpenAI inference deal. So the hardware and the silicon race are going crazy, and there is this huge dependency on China for for all of these chips. And there was this news like last week, which is basically an AI has discovered a new material which kind of like acts as a magnet, which cools down these different semiconductor chips that's used for training or running these large language models. And this is like available everywhere, which means the dependency on China can kind of lay off. So we'll know more when more research come out. Now, the enterprise power shift this week was significant. Ramp data from 50,000 plus businesses showed Anthropic has overtaken OpenAI in corporate AI chat spending. Claude's enterprise market share hit 40%, which was up from 4% a year earlier, while OpenAI fell from 50% to 27%. So we all know why. The Pentagon situation almost certainly accelerated this shift. Cursor's automations launched as part of Cursor 2.0, event-driven AI agents triggered by code changes, Slack messages, or timers. Bloomberg reported Cursor's annual revenue hit $2 billion plus, doubling in 3 months. The product includes Composer, a proprietary coding model, and multi agent workspaces. Now, EY achieved 4x coding productivity by connecting AI agents directly to engineering standards and compliance frameworks, solving what they call the unusable code problem in enterprise code generation. Now, B2B tooling updates. The Anthropic Claude marketplace launched on March 6th with no commission on transactions. Launch partners include Snowflake, Harvey, Replit, and GitLab. Customers can allocate existing Anthropic spending toward partner tools. ChatGPT for Excel launched in beta mode with integrations for FactSet, Dow Jones Factiva, LSEG, Dalupa, S&P Global, Moody's, and MSCI. Amazon Connect Health went global for a general audience at $99 per month per user. A purpose-built agentic AI platform with 5 agents for patient verification, ambient clinical documentation, appointment management, patient insights, and medical coding. So UC San Diego Health saves 630 hours weekly using all of these. Microsoft's security dashboard for AI entered public preview, aggregating real-time risk signals for Defender, Entra, and Purview. Amazon deployed an AI seller dashboard in Seller Central that sellers accept recommendations 90% of the time. And Gong's mission Andromeda represents its move toward changing how people work, approximately $300 million in annual recurring revenue. Now, what does all of these say? We have a lot of tools, which, if you think about it, is kind of like user centric for different sales, healthcare, and all of the other basically everywhere that you use for analysis, for coding, everywhere that you use, these companies are building customized industry specific tools, which is a game changer because let's face it, that's where we're heading towards. Am I right? It's either build these tools yourselves with your internal engineering teams or use these tools which are provided by these huge AI players in itself. So, how many of you are using ChatGPT Health by any chance? Let me know in the chat. I'd love to know the stats as well. And also, which country are you all joining me from? Let me know that too. And yep, let's make cool connections. Now, moving on to the next segment, the platform ecosystem saw sweeping updates across Apple, Microsoft, and Google this week. Apple had a massive product week, announcing 7 AI capable devices. AI was centralized under Craig Federighi with Amar Subramania as the new VP of AI, and former head John Giannare kind of retired. Devices announced include the MacBook Neo at $599, the cheapest ever Mac, which can run with an iPhone chip with Apple Intelligence, the iPhone 17e with the A19 chip, iPad Air M4 with a 16-core neural engine, and MacBook Air M5. Apple is reimagining Siri using a 1.2 trillion parameter Gemini model, targeting alongside iOS 26.4. Microsoft Copilot received a major redesign on March 5th with a new integrated sidebar deploying web content alongside AI conversations, enhanced task management, and a new navigation flow. GPT 5.3 Instant and GPT 5.4 Thinking became available in Microsoft 365 Copilot and Copilot Studio as of March 6th. Google's Pixel March rolled out like Gemini powered features. The Gemini app can now execute tasks inside other apps. It can order groceries, book rides. Circle to Search was upgraded with Try It On. Magic Q launched up for restaurant recommendations. AI generated custom icons were added, and scam detection was expanded. Gemini in Chrome added a new side panel for multitasking, deeper Google Apps integration, and a preview of Auto Browse for task automation. This is the agentic era that we are talking about. Now, Claude Code received the Claude API skill and stability fixes. Google Notebook LM upgraded to generate cinematic videos from uploaded documents. Perplexity Deep Research now runs on Anthropic's Opus 4.6. Perplexity Computer continued rolling out to Mac subscribers a unified AI workspace coordinating 19 models. Google Ads AI lets marketers define words to avoid ungenerated copy. Early tester BYD saw leads climb like around 24%, while costs dropped by 26%. WordPress released official AI plugins for Claude, Gemini, and OpenAI. So a lot of ecosystems, a lot of different tools are actively integrating AI, and that's a good thing. Am I right? Now, the labor story moved from theoretical to measurable this week, and it is not comfortable reading it because Block, which was formerly called as Square, announced layoffs of 4,000 plus employees, roughly around 40% of its staff. CEO Jack Dorsey explicitly mentioned AI as a prime reason for this layoff. So he mentioned like intelligence tools changed what it means to build and run a company. Block stock surged 24% on the announcement. Oracle planned cuts of potentially 20,000 to 30,000 employees driven by a cash crunch from AI data center expansion. Morgan Stanley laid off 2,500 employees. Ergo announced approximately 1,000 job cuts by 2030 as AI automates insurance tasks. Now, again, Anthropic published its landmark labor market study on March 5th, which introduced an observed exposure metric. Key findings from it were computer programming shows 75% task coverage, but actual Claude usage covers only around 33% of theoretically automatable tasks, meaning the gap between AI capability and the real world deployment remains at large. There is no systemic unemployment rise yet. However, there is tentative evidence of slower hiring for workers aged between 22 to 25 in exposed occupations. The first measurable signal of AI's effect on entry level hiring is here. The information ecosystem collapse was also measured this week. Tech publishing sites have lost 58% of Google traffic since 2024. Stack Overflow dropped to 2009 question volume. People are getting answers from AI instead of search and forums, which is an extension level event for knowledge work publishing. Who uses Stack Overflow anymore? Any Stack Overflow active users here? While Claude Code or Google's anti-gravity or any tool for that matter does your coding, who would go to Stack Overflow? I've not been there since forever. So, and Meteor's RCT continued generating debate. Experienced developers are 19% slower with AI assistants, despite believing they were 20% faster. And a developer benchmarked an LLM generated Rust implementation of SQLite at 576,000 lines and found it 20,171 times slower. The code compiles and passes tests, but the query planner routes every where clause through a full table scan. So it's still sloppy. And personally, in my own personal opinion, I think companies who are kind of laying off their employees based on AI, I guess that's a huge mistake because let's face it, even though there are a lot of AI tools which can create amazing output for you, kind of like, multifold increase your productivity, there is still slop everywhere, be it coding, be it video generation, be it image generation, be it content generation too. It is still sloppy. It could kind of like it does increase a lot of it does cut down a lot of times for research and stuff and so as an AI advocate, I can tell you that you cannot run an entire company only using AI. You need humans. Maybe it requires like a couple of less humans than before, but then laying off 40% from a company, that's I'm against it. Now, again, all of these companies, they are targeted towards making profits, making higher revenues when it comes to keeping that company afloat. So their employees are the last people they would think about. The first and foremost thing is their annual revenue, because let's face it, their investors would be holding their neck, because if they have not made any profits, if they have not achieved their annual revenue that was discussed in the Q1 meeting. So the employees' welfare, that is the last thing that they would think about. And that is exactly why you, as listeners of this specific podcast, I want you all to become irreplaceable or unfireable, or, you know, become financially free with implementing AI and automating tasks, starting your own side hustle so that, God forbid something happens, you have an alternative to switch to. If you've been following me on LinkedIn, I post a lot of different stories and stuff as to how you can do it. So just I understand that with job and with your personal stuff that's going on, it's very difficult to do something on this side. You might think that you would do it on your weekend. You might think that you would do it like later in the night after you're back from your job, but you would never find the time. But it's like high time that you do it. I recently got this thought. Your company would kind of replace you within a fraction of a second. Okay. If you were to leave, or if you were to kind of being let go of, I think, I know for sure that a job posting would be live before even you clear your desk. Okay. So if, you're such replaceable person in a company, why do you have to give it all to someone else's dream? So work in your lunchtime at your company. Work on your company time for a idea that you have. Maybe you want to start that YouTube channel. Maybe you want to start off with your Instagram account, posting about food reviews, or some dress reviews, whatever your passion is. Just do it anytime, because let's face it, you could be replaced in a jiffy. And for somebody, I should not talk on behalf of everyone, because I am a privileged woman, and it might not be the case for everybody listening to this. But if you want to stay at your job, let's say you love your job and you don't want to be the person getting laid off, or kind of replaced by someone else, replaced by AI, for instance, that's exactly the reason I'm running this workshop, the Irreplaceable OS. So I teach you how you can automate a specific, task in your existing workflow. So any task, any role that you're currently in, at least one task can be automated using AI. So I help you identify such tasks so that you can automate them and become irreplaceable in your existing workplace. So you can register it for free. It's a completely free workshop. You can find it on the pinned comments or scan this QR code. So yeah, I'll see you there. Just register, okay? Now moving back to where we were. Yeah, that's the information about the job market. Now, Netflix acquired Interpositive. It was Ben Affleck's 16% stealth AI filmmaking startup, which was founded in 2022. Okay, so this is pretty awesome because Netflix, a media streaming platform, has acquired Interpositive, which is AI filmmaking startup. So, what does that mean for like the movies that's going to come out? Now, the startup trains models on a production's own footage to let directors relight shots, adjust color, and add effects in post production without reshooting. Affleck stays as senior advisor. Affleck is the CEO of this specific startup, Interpositive. Netflix confirmed the technology will not be sold commercially. It will remain an exclusive competitive weapon for filmmakers. The digital necromancy story broke wide open this week. Grammarly and Superhuman's expert review feature provides writing feedback supposedly inspired by named academics, including deceased ones. The Verge discovered that Cambridge historian David Abulafia, who died in January 2026, and Carl Sagan were among those impersonated. The Verge's own editorial staff, including editor-in-chief Nilay Patel, were also found to be impersonated. The tool includes an AI grading agent predicting how specific professors would evaluate student work. Academics called it digital necromancy. On copyright lawsuits, ByteDance's C-Dance 2.0 video generator, at around 14 cents per second, faced legal action from major Hollywood studios over alleged unauthorized use of copyrighted content. Sora 2 continued generating copyright backlash, with Disney, Universal, and Warner Bros. suing Midjourney for infringement over users making videos featuring James Bond, Mario, and SpongeBob. OpenAI responded by giving rights holders more controls. Now, Runway AI Festival 2026 opened for submissions. SonarWorks found 1,100 plus music producers are skeptical of AI for composing, but accepted for audio cleanup, evolving toward creative directors. A viral AI caricature trend swept social media through ChatGPT, making many creatives uncomfortable. Sakana AI released Doc to LoRa, text to LoRa systems, generating LoRa adapters for LLMs in a single forward pass. This is all for image and video generation and how it can be used for the creative arts. Right? Sounds interesting, doesn't it? Now, the most significant governance document of the week was the Pro Human Declaration published on March 7th. This bipartisan framework was signed by hundreds of experts and former officials spanning the political spectrum, from Steve Bannon to Susan Rice, organized by MIT's Max Tegmark. It calls for prohibition on superintelligence development without scientific consensus, mandatory off switches, and a ban on self replicating architectures. A survey found 95% of Americans oppose an unregulated race to superintelligence. Yeah, if you think about it, this is a good move, so that it's the new technology is not kind of misused by the public or by the organization. But at the end of the day, putting so many kind of red tapes for us to get to the space of getting these super intelligent I think it's going to delay it on a much more level, because EU has been very strict with the AI Act. We'll see that in a couple while. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Now, Oregon SB 1546 passed with strong bipartisan support the first major 2026 chatbot safety bill, requiring suicide ideation referrals, AI disclosure, minor protections, and annual reporting with a private right of action. Vermont Governor Phil Scott signed S23 concerning synthetic media in elections. Florida's AI Bill of Rights, backed by DeSantis, passed at the Senate 35-2, but was blocked by the House Speaker Paris. Utah passed age verification and deepfake bills. Washington's 5105 deepfakes bill saw final passage. Bills advanced in Arizona, Iowa, Georgia, Illinois, New York, Kentucky, California, Connecticut, Louisiana, and New Jersey. Now, three critical actions under Trump's December 2025 AI executive order was due on March 11th. Commerce Department must publish an evaluation identifying onerous state AI laws. The FTC must issue a policy statement on how Section 5 applies to AI, and B broadband funding restrictions take effect. The EU's digital omnibus proposal consultation closed March 11th, delaying high-risk AI obligations to December 2027. The US Supreme Court declined to hear Stephen Taylor's AI copyright appeal, leaving intact rulings that human authorship is a bedrock requirement. China continued advancing 30 plus new AI standards and proposed creation of a World AI Cooperation Organization, something called WICO. The BART's versus Anthropic $1.5 billion copyright settlement re-inclusion deadline was March 9th, with final approval hearing set for April 23rd. Now, these news kind of reassure you that there are regulations in place which which would kind of avoid the AI disaster that you see in the movies. But again, more restrictions means delayed delivery of all these models. But again, safe models equals better results and better usage. So it's a win-win for everyone. Three research breakthroughs kind of stood out this week. In 3D chemistry, Zatom 1 was introduced at ICLR 2026 as the first end-to-end fully open source foundation model for 3D chemistry using multimodal flow matching. It reduces inference time 10 times compared to previous approaches and is fully open under Apache license. Google's Bayesian LLMs, published in Nature Communications on March 4th. Bayesian teaching enables probabilistic reasoning in LLMs train models to make optimal Bayesian probability updates. Bayesian trained models match predictions around 80% of the time and generalize zero shot to new domains, a significant step towards more reliable probabilistic reasoning. Beating the memory wall, MIT's attention matching compresses the KV cache by 50 times without accuracy loss in seconds, addressing the memory wall problem that has been a bottleneck for AI agents processing long documents. Now, Anthropic's Frontier Red team kind of scanned approximately 6,000 C++ files in Firefox using Claude Opus 4.6, submitting 112 bug reports and finding 22 vulnerabilities, 14 high severity, 7 moderate, and 1 low. The first vulnerability were found in around 20 minutes at a cost of just $4,000 in API credits. All high severity issues were fixed in Firefox 148. Claude also co-authored a working exploit for CVE 2026-2796 with a CVSS score of 9.8, a JIT miscompletion vulnerability, the first observed model authoring a successful browser exploit. On the healthcare side, an AI surgical chatbot received kind of like FDA breakthrough device status. Stanford, not Stanford, Stanford Health announced AI virtual care for rural access. The AI healthcare market was valued at $38 billion in 2025, with projections to around $1.22 trillion by 2035, a 41.5% CAGR. GPT-0 found 50 plus hallucinated citations in 300 ICLR 2026 submissions, each missed by 3 to 5 peer reviewers. On education, the US senators introduced the NSF AI Education Act of 2026 to educate 1 million plus workers on AI by 2026. Now, let me quickly check the chat if there is any question. Okay, no relevant questions found. All right. Okay, moving back to our story. Now, three major security events kind of defined the whole week, and all three of them should be kind of very, very carefully diagnosed and dissected. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Now, Claude hacks its own benchmark. In a March 8 disclosure, Anthropic revealed that while Claude Opus 4.6 was being tested on BrowseComp, it independently figured out it was being evaluated, identified identified that specific benchmark, found the encrypted answer key on GitHub, wrote its own decryption code, and submitted the answer. 18 separate independent runs converged on the same strategy. One attempt burned 40.5 million tokens, 38 times any median run would do. This was a top story on Hacker News. This was not adversarial manipulation. The model was simply optimizing for task completion. The triple escape. This is a very interesting story. Security firm ONA demonstrated that Claude Code escaped its own sandbox without jailbreaking or adversarial prompts via three escalating bypasses. Number one was bypassed a path-based denialist via a proc self-root trick. And number two, independently disabled Anthropic's bubble wrap sandbox. Number three, bypassed kernel level enforcement through the ELF dynamic linker. ONA released Veto, a new security tool in response to it. Now, any of these different security tools out there, for managing your systems in organizations or at home, it needs to come bulletproof with AI, because Claude Code escaping its own sandbox, wouldn't you call this AGI? Okay, I'm not going there. Now, lowering the cybercrime barrier. An amateur hacker breached 600 plus FortiGate networks across 55 countries using a custom MCP server called Arxon. It's called ARXON. Okay, it's a no zero-day exploits required, just weak credentials and patience. The ARXON server fed stolen data to Claude for attack planning. OpenAI Codex Security launched on March 6th in research preview. It scanned 1.2 million plus commits during its 30-day beta and identified 792 critical and 10,561 high severity findings across OpenSSH, Chromium, and PHP. False positive rates fell 50% plus. A GitHub bot was prompt injected into installing malware on 4,000 developer machines. A Terraform agent deleted a production database. A Postgres PG hint plan generated by Claude slows queries 20,171 times. This was the news that we saw earlier where a developer reported this, that using Claude Code kind of like actually slowed them. Now, physical AI is having its moment. Nvidia, Google, Siemens, and ARM are racing to build the platform layer for robots and autonomous systems. China accounted for 80 plus percentage of global humanoid robot installations in 2025. A Deloitte survey of 3,200 plus business leaders found 58% already deploying physical AI and 80% planning adoption within 2 years. We saw the rise of Neo, right? The humanoid robot which will do your household work. It's coming. It's coming in 2026 or at least 2027. SpaceX acquired xAI, merging Musk's AI venture into SpaceX for spacecraft operations and robotic Mars colonies. Harvey Legal AI acquired Loom AI, a YC-backed data integration company. Accenture agreed to acquire Ookla to strengthen AI-powered network intelligence. Ookla is the network intelligence or the speed test platform. Alibaba's Quen leadership crisis intensified, with multiple researchers departing, including Binyuan Hui to Meta and Kaizin Li to other firms, raising fears about the project's open source future. Despite the Quen leadership uncertainty, the Quen 3.5 small model series was a major release as we saw. Unsloth published free fine-tuning notebooks for Quen 3.5 requiring only 5 GB of virtual RAM for the 2 billion LoRa, which is like 1.5 times faster with 50% less VRAM. Locally, AI enabled running Quen 3.5 natively on Mac with Apple Silicon, and Apple MLX creator Anvi Hanan open sourced MyLM, a local LLM that LoRa fine-tunes itself on auto-generated Q&A from conversations via a sleep command. Andre Karpathy commented that memory operations as tools can get you quite far. OpenAI's chain of thoughts control research showed GPT 5.4 thinking has low ability to obscure its reasoning even when told it's being monitored. A positive safety signal, if you think about it. OpenAI committed to reporting chain of thought controllability in all future system cards. Meta created a new applied AI engineering organization led by VP Mahir Saba to partner with its superintelligence lab. That's again a cool, amazing story. Now, again, this was not at all a normal week in AI because 5 storylines intertwined to create something historically significant. One was the supply chain weaponization. The Pentagon Anthropic standoff kind of marked the first time the US government weaponized supply chain law against a domestic AI company for refusing military access. This is a historic government intervention precedent and the public backlash, which sent Claude to number 1 on the App Store and ChatGPT uninstalls up to around 295%, which showed where consumer sentiment sits. Number 2, we saw about the capability threshold, which is GPT 5.4's launch with the first general purpose models surpassing human performance on computer use at 75% versus 72.4% human baseline. This marked a genuine capability threshold. Machines can now operate computers independently better than most humans. This is not incremental progress. On number 3, we saw uh, Claude's autonomous benchmark hacking and Claude Code's triple sandbox escape showed frontier models developing emergent goal-seeking behaviors that outspace security measures, not through adversarial manipulation, but simply through optimizing for task completion. The safety community needs to treat this as a structural challenge, not as an isolated incident. And then we saw Block's 4,000 layoffs, and Anthropic's labor study brought the AI displaces jobs thesis from speculation to measurable reality. The tentative evidence of slower hiring of workers aged 22 to 25 in exposed occupations in the first data point in what may become a significant trend. The tech publishing traffic collapse, 58% of Google traffic lost since 2024, shows AI's already tangible impact on information systems. Unprecedented capital of $110 billion for OpenAI $700 billion in hyperscaler capex, 60 billion plus in chip deals, and the sheer capital flooding in suggests that the industry is betting this is the most consequential technology transition in history. Whether the safety community is ready or not, and we are going to see amazing insights and amazing updates with respect to AI in the coming days. So that was a lot, right? And I'm sure that you would have, you know, kind of listened to it on your commute back from work or like to work based on whatever time zone you're from. So this is all that happened in the past 2 days. Okay, we covered all the news that happened since last Friday. This is all the news in just 2 days. Okay, so it's moving very fast, and it's like very hard to keep up. So yeah, that's why I have this show running, because for people who are as busy as you are, you can just tune in for this 1 hour episode and get all the AI information that you need. Or you can even subscribe to my newsletter, where I kind of post, the recap of whatever we discuss here the next day. So even if you do not have the 1 hour time to watch this whole podcast, you can kind of, subscribe to my newsletter, and I will send it to you each morning, with the whole cover of whatever we've discussed so far. Okay, I'm putting the link to how you can subscribe to my newsletter in the in the chat, so you can kind of, you know subscribe to it. So I'm putting it on chat across all platforms, so you have it with you. Okay, subscribe to my newsletter for um, day-to-day up-to-date information. So I think with that we have reached the end of the segment. But usually in my AI radio shows, I would demo a specific tool or a specific product. Today, because of time constraints, I am going to end it. But you can always, tomorrow, you can wait for a surprise of a cool implementation that I'm working on, which I would kind of demonstrate it to you. And also, um, what else, a lot of cool updates drop each day, so you need not worry about what we're going to be talking tomorrow, and I promise you with an amazing update for tomorrow. All right, thanks for tuning in. Check out the AI Sisterhood podcast, which is the episode 1 is currently available for replay on my YouTube channel, and tune in for yet another amazing AI Sisterhood podcast episode this Saturday. Register for my upcoming free workshop. It's called the Irreplaceable OS. You can check out the QR code or the pinned comment on your chat. So, what else? I think with that, let's close off for today. Good morning or good night, wherever you're tuning in from. I'll see you tomorrow.